are then. All Elite Wrestling has finally come to an end for its pay-per-view runs and is now heading into television for October. So they'll be broadcasting in America on TNT, and the assumption is that it'll also be broadcasting on ITV in the UK, but that's not quite been confirmed yet. So we don't know what's going on in the UK. Maybe it's confirmed by the time that we release this particular podcast, but October 2nd is when the TV goes live. Before that, they've conducted and produced 4 events, which has been pretty good, starting in May with Double or Nothing, and then just recently finishing up with All Out, which have been good events. And I thought I'd just come in there and just give a little bit of thoughts on the promotion itself, and also some of the matches. I've got like top 5 things that I like, top 5 things that I don't like. I'm going to go through those and then maybe go through some of the top matches. But before we get started, if you don't know what All Elite Wrestling is, it's a brand new wrestling promotion that was formed this year. So January the 1st, they formed. And you've got the owner, who is technically Shahid Khan, who is the owner of Jacksonville Jaguars and also Fulham Football Club here in the United Kingdom. But then the guys running it really are Tony Khan, who is his son, who is Shahid's son, Cody Rhodes, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Kenny Omega, and Brandy Rhodes. So they're the sort of the main day-to-day people who appear to be running the show. So Tony is the president, quote unquote, and then Cody, Matt, Nick, and Kenny are executive vice presidents, and then Brandy is chief brand officer. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't really matter. But they're the guys that are making decisions, signing, the talent, booking the events as well. And this really all comes from the independent kind of show that they put on that Cody, Matt, Nick, Kenny put on. I think it was last September or maybe last August, called All In. And off the back of that got some high reviews, and Tony was looking to create a new wrestling promotion and decided that he was going to go with these guys who have been, together for many years now on the independent circuit and over in Japan. They're very popular there. Haven't had much. Obviously, they've not really been on WWE, so if you're only ever watching that product, you probably won't have known too much about them. Cody is the main exception. Obviously, he was there for several years before moving on. So some people won't know who these guys are. I must admit, I only really knew who Cody was. I'd heard of Kenny Omega and seen maybe one of his matches on YouTube previously, because someone said, you got to have a look at this, but not much knowledge of that. But I thought, this is a brand new wrestling promotion. It looks like they're targeting at the UK market as well, which is important for me, because it means I can hopefully watch it week to week. They had a television deal signed and in place earlier this year, so that helped. And that was only going to be 2 hours long. And with what goes on with WWE nowadays, where it's, what's Raw, 3 hours, is it? And then SmackDown's at least 2, so 5 hours. And then if you want to watch NXT, it's another 2 hours. If you want to watch 205 Live, do you know what I mean? It's just, there's a lot there. And I know they're separate brands, but you kind of need to watch Raw and SmackDown, since they have wrestlers going in between the two brands, like these wild cards that they've introduced. And I have tried to keep up to speed with what's going on over there. There's a show on the WWE network called This Week in WWE, so I'd kind of been doing that, but even that's difficult to sit down and watch for half an hour. And I watched SummerSlam. I thought it was okay, not the best, and albeit very predictable. And I haven't really been searching for wrestling, really. I mean, once MMA came along, sort of in 2008, 2009, into 2010, 11, 12, I slowly transitioned away from it. But it's always something, that I've previously enjoyed, and there was always potential that I would come back and watch something if there was an interesting, storyline going on, or if someone come back in the WWE. So it could be anything like that. And I obviously noticed that All Elite Wrestling were getting a bit of buzz, and I thought, well, when it comes down to when they do their first event, if they air it somehow in the UK, then I will watch it. And on May 25th, they did. Double or Nothing went live, and I watched it and was reasonably impressed. And since then, I've been following what's been going on in the world of AEW. So I'm going to go through some of my top 5 pros that I've noticed, sort of the good things that I've picked up on whilst watching the product. Then some cons, stuff that I don't think has been quite as good, and some bits they could do better on. And then the top matches that I've enjoyed since they've kind of been going live. So let's kick things off with the things that I like. The production values, they are of a very high standard. It's not perfect. They make a few mistakes in the timing that they seem to have ironed out now, so maybe that's not too much of a problem. But the way that the cameras are set up, the arena, everything, the lighting, the pyro, it all looks top draw, like of a world class professional promotion, which is important when you're trying to get lapsed fans back in who remember the days of WWF and the Attitude Era and the eras following that, and that maybe just don't watch WWE now because they don't like how it's being run or the wrestling or the storylines. It could be anything. So immediately you're not put off by switching on All Elite Wrestling and watching one of their events. It looks like a top tier promotion, which is what they're striving to be, and they're also striving to be. And this is kind of my next pro for them, is the alternative. They're not trying to be the next WWE, the next WCW, the next. It's quite clear in the way that they book things, and also the way that they stylize and add their own little features and bits and pieces. They want to be an alternative to WWE at the moment. They're not here to go to war. A byproduct of a new promotion coming in, though, means the WWE will react, and they have reacted, and they're going to try and counter-program All Elite Wrestling's TV shows on the Wednesday night by putting NXT on during the same slot and during the same night. So they're obviously treating it as a competition, whereas All Elite Wrestling seem pretty focused on just saying, look, we are an alternative. We have opportunities for wrestlers who want to make a change and want perhaps more creative control or a schedule that works better for them. Then come and have a look at what we're doing over here. And that's point proven when they signed Jon Moxley, who previously had been Dean Ambrose in the WWE for many years. He's been WWE champion. He was part of the Shield with Roman Reigns, and I've forgotten the other chap's name. Probably the best one at the lot. No, it's gone. That's unfortunate. He just beat Lesnar at SummerSlam as well. Seth Rollins. So he's part of that stable, and that's the biggest name really that's jumped from WWE to All Elite Wrestling, and he cited several reasons why. Is the creative stifling that goes on in the WWE land as a wrestler who wants to express themselves and have some control over what their character's doing. They're not afforded that opportunity over there. So for him, it was a no-brainer to come somewhere that was probably going to pay just as well, if not better, or within that ballpark. Let's not beat around the bush here. There's a lot of money that the Khan family have, and they will use it for top talent like Moxley, who've got a big profile. So to be able to pay him, and also just to give him some control over the promos. It seems like, to me, the way they're running it behind the scenes is that, yes, there's a point we probably want you to get across, but it's up to you how you do it. If you want scripting, they will help provide that, but they're allowing the wrestlers to express themselves and go off script and do whatever they want, really, in terms of the promo, as long as they follow the general idea of what's been given to them, which, by the sounds of things in the WWE world, unless you're Brock Lesnar, you're not getting that level of freedom. So not only is it an alternative for someone like me who can't watch or won't watch 5 hours of television a week just to catch up on some wrestling, but it's also an alternative for some of the wrestlers, those that maybe have become disillusioned by the WWE cycle, because really, there's a lot of independent stuff over there in the States, and the UK has got a half decent kind of British scene going on, but it's all independent. There's no mainstream stuff that's really popular other than the people that like WWE, and for so long, not being in the WWE meant you weren't really known unless there was the hardcore seeking you out. So this will give a platform to people to maybe draw at mainstream level again, and we'll see how it goes. My third plus point for All Elite Wrestling is their top matches have been top draw so far. Like, all the main events have been pretty good, if not very good, and usually if there's a co-main or even a third co-main, I mean, I don't call them that, but the top three bouts have been excellent, especially for Double or Nothing and All Out. They were tremendous, those 6 fights that are at the top of those cards. And I think that's promising, because sometimes the main events or the top matches as they're being billed aren't always the best matches on the card, whereas in this case they've just been a level above everything else, which is great to see. You want the event to ascend like that and be at its peak when the last few matches are going on. And so I've been really impressed by the work they've put in for their best matches, the ones that they want the spotlight on, because that's where it really matters. That's why people generally are tuning in, is to watch someone in those maybe top 3 matches if you've got the profiles for them. So I've been really impressed with that, and it's something that I hope they continue to do. I also like the fact they are focusing on tag team wrestling. They've said several times, especially the Young Bucks, who are a tag team and have been for about 10-15 years, they want to build the best tag team division on the planet. And I've watched a bit of WWE these days, and tag team wrestling really is a bit of an afterthought now. And it's a shame, because it can be some of the most exciting wrestling out there if done correctly. So they've made a commitment where they want to, they're doing a tournament. I think it's going to be mainly on the TV. They're doing a tournament where teams will be entered into this elimination tournament, and that will crown their first ever tag team champions. And they've got LAX who have just come in from All Out. Obviously, the Young Bucks that are good. There's some up and comers like Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. They've got a team called the Dark Order, who I'm not overly fond of. I don't think they're that great, but they're there as well. Chaps called Best Friends, and there's others that I've forgotten or not thought about, but they're focusing on that as well. And a side note to that as well, they're also focusing on their women's division as well. And they've only got 3 belts, the world title, the women's title, and the tag team belt so far. So do they need any more? I don't think so. Not for now. Just keep those 3 belts, make them prestigious, and if they can build a really deep, exciting tag team division, then that will be able to fill out their cards and add some more excitement in. I guess the last thing on my impressed list, if you want to call that, is that most of the big matches have been clean finishes. There hasn't been too many shenanigans. I don't recall there being a DQ finish at all in any of their matches, or a count out. It's been pinfall, submission, and sometimes there's been interference, but not in the big matches generally. And this is the exception, is Cody Rhodes versus Shawn Spears, but generally there hasn't been much outside interference. It's kind of been mano v mano, and the best man has won. And I kind of like that. I like that the victories are seen as clean, at least. They're not screwing over the audience with those top matches. Now, there is a time and a place for that when you want to get heat or get some heat on a particular worker, but early in the going, you don't want to turn off audiences by seemingly screwing them over. So they've made the right choice, and the finishes have been shocking. Like the Pac beating Kenny Omega completely clean. It's a technical submission. Omega went out cold due to the pain or blood being cut off. I don't know what the rationale was, but the submission, the brutalised that was landed on top of him, knocked him out, so he was unable to continue. Referee called it. Like, Omega's one of the executive vice presidents. You'd think they would book him strongly, not only because he's that, you take that out of the equation, he's a fantastic wrestler. And Pac comes in on his debut and hands Kenny Omega his second clean loss. He'd lost to Jericho previously to that. Both heels, or both playing the role of heels, and they've gone over clean on him, and I appreciate that. I mean, I don't expect it to happen all the time, and as TV starts, they'll introduce a bit more of the shenanigans side. But I think when it comes to your pay-per-views and bits and pieces like that, you want those to be as clean as possible, except in certain occasions. Now, some concerns that I have, or stuff that I haven't liked since starting in watching in Double or Nothing. Let's have a look. I've got to start cutting. I've got 6 here, but one of them's very. Well, I'm going to start with a very specific one, and this maybe I'll do 6 for this, but they've done 4 events. They've done Double or Nothing, Fighter Fest, Fight for the Fallen, and All Out. Double or Nothing and All Out were pay-per-views across the board. So in America, they were pay-per-views, and UK international use pay-per-view to watch those. And Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen were actually free-to-air streams on Bleacher Report for US audience. But if you were in the UK or international, you had to put your hand in your pocket for those. And I don't like it when they do that, but not only because it stitches people like me up who are based in the UK, but it just doesn't seem right to me. It doesn't seem like there's a necessity to do that. And I'm sure there's some bullshit agreement in place with maybe ITV Box Office who are handling this, and Fight, who are the app that are handling the streaming events that they've done. But come on. Make it consistent. Don't advertise all on your social media, on Bleacher Report, free of charge, blah, blah, and then, subtitle, if you're international, you've got to pay 15 quid for it. Because not only that, the quality of those 2 shows were lower than All Out and Double or Nothing. That's a fact. The cards were not booked as strongly, and they were clearly, if you want to call it, it's like a B-level, event. They weren't top tier pay-per-view events, so you need to sort that out and have it consistent across your markets. Otherwise, you'll turn people off in those markets who are getting stitched up. So I think that's something they need to work on. They have previously had some sloppy and technical issues, and not shown that their timing is the best. And the main 2 things I want to call out here, and this hasn't happened at All Out, so the latest one, but it doesn't mean it can't occur, especially when it comes to TV, live TV, which they're doing. They've got the pre-show called The Buy-In for Double or Nothing. That actually cut off before the they overran. So they were cutting a promo just as the event started, Cody and Omega and the Bucks out on the stage, and because the pay-per-view portion was kicking in like imminently, they just cut off Cody mid-sentence and went to the starting blocks for the pay-per-view because they'd overrun basically on their buy-in. So you need to get the timings right, especially if you're going to live TV where it will just cut off and you'll miss certain things, and that can hurt the product. The second thing I also noticed that on their YouTube channel, they were airing test streams on their All Elite Wrestling YouTube channel. So I'll get a notification saying All Elite have just gone live, and I'll be like, what the hell's this? And it'd say test stream. And it'd just be a load of noise and like those old holding patterns for TV when they're offline. It'd just be that with a load of racket on it. There was no promo, there was no looped video, and that was going live on their YouTube channel. And I thought, that's not very professional. It makes you look like a bit of a rookie promotion there. And not only that, they left them on the channel for about a week or 2, and this happened for Double or Nothing, I think also for Fighter Fest also. But need to cut out that sort of sloppiness. You want all your social channels, and especially YouTube, if you're going to use that as a destination for content, you really need to make sure that what's on there is all highly produced, and we don't get test streams randomly just going up live on there. It's not good enough, really. Also, going back to the YouTube side of things, I'm kind of going to squeeze this into the same point here, so that we do only have 5 and not 6. They appear to have ironed this out as well, mostly solved, but at one point they had an All Elite Wrestling channel, which is fine. That's the place I'd expect to go to watch any build-up events that they're going to publish, or storylines, events should be posted on there. Road to events which they were producing should all go on there. But what they were doing in the early going, and it only changed when we got to All Out, was that the really well done, highly produced Road to episodes for each of the events were being published on Cody. I'm guessing it's Cody Rhodes' sort of personal YouTube channel, which is known as the Nightmare Family. And you're not going to know that if you're casually just sort of tuning in to watch the events for All Elite, and you're not following things on the social media or whatever. And you think, if I just subscribe to their main YouTube channel, I will see everything they want me to see. And that wasn't the case. Like I said, that doesn't happen anymore. It seems like the Road 2 episodes are now going on the All Elite channel, but for a good few months, there were 3 channels you had to follow. You had to follow All Elite, which was fine. Then you had to follow the Nightmare Family, which was Cody's channel, because it had all this really good stuff. All the storylines were embedded in this thing. And then they still have the Being the Elite YouTube channel, which is their weekly YouTube series, if you want to call it that, where the Young Bucks typically just do a few skits, a few comedy bits, and sometimes they put some story stuff in there for All Elite. So there's 3 channels at the moment. I think we can discount the Nightmare Family, but we've still got Being the Elite going on every week, which you kind of want to watch, because they certainly have some character development and storylines that run through that into their shows. And for me, I hope that once TV comes along, this disappears, the Being the Elite show, or that it's redone and repackaged and put on the main All Elite channel. Like, this is now a professional outfit. All Elite Wrestling is this brand, and you can't have kind of like some of your storylines seeping into what is like an indie low-level YouTube channel. And I know the rabid fan base love them, and they love the show and whatnot, but you think about this is going to lead very nicely into my third point, that I think they need to kind of do better on, is I'm worried that because they've got such a rabid, loyal fan base, before All Elite Wrestling was formed, these guys have got a super fan base that love everything they do. They love Being the Elite. That's been going on for years. I'm worried that they're going to end up building this entire promotion around that fan base, giving jobs for the boys, so for wrestlers that they're friends with rather than on merit, because they know that their fan base that they're familiar with will like it, rather than making it a product for someone like me who's coming in from the outside and wants to enjoy wrestling without some of the comedy bits that they do. Now, I understand there's always going to be a need to do all different types of wrestling, whether it's high flying, old school, hardcore, comedy, things like that, but I'm a bit concerned that they will cater and pander towards people who are in on the jokes, i.e. those that have the history with the Young Bucks and Kenny and Hangman, all that stuff, rather than the new people that they want to tune in, because they won't financially sustain by just having their current fan base. They need it to be palatable for people from the outside. So that's another thing that I've noticed, is that a lot of their shows have been pandering towards the rabid, loyal fan base. All Out was a little bit different. I feel like, again, they have steered away from that slightly, but when we get to TNT, when they go to television with week-to-week storylines, that's really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons on whether that's the case or not. Fourth con or negative, I felt like for the first ever AEW World Championship match, Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page, that they built Hangman Page up very poorly for this match. He didn't seem strong. He didn't seem or feel like a legitimate threat. You didn't need to do anything with Jericho. Jericho is Jericho. He's going to be over in whatever he does. But when you put someone like Hangman in, who's probably, a step below someone like Kenny in terms of not only the popularity, but also the in-ring accolades that have been gotten outside of the main WWE ecosystem, when he's going to be fighting for the first ever championship match, you need to you've got those months to build him, and I think they didn't do a good job. So by the time Hangman rolled into All Out, I mean, if he'd won, it would have been a real shock, but it wouldn't. I don't think it would have been. It would have fit with what's been going on. I think there'd have been backlash to that. But he lost as expected, and that's kind of where they got to. That he never seemed like a legitimate threat. He didn't seem over. I said it. He didn't seem very over with the crowd or with other people. It was a tough one because I think Kenny should have been the first one in line for the title match, and that would have been. They've had a match, Jericho and Kenny, and Kenny's beaten him, and it's a legitimate historical, point in their careers that is a match that's happened. Whereas Hangman, what's he, 26, 27, maybe 28, young, upcomer, hasn't held a major title, and then he's going for the first ever championship match against Jericho. Could you have maybe swapped him out and put in the likes of Omega? I don't know. I mean, Jericho and Omega did have their match, but it was for a shot at the title rather than the title itself, and I feel like that should have been reversed. But we didn't get that, and Hangman, they guess they tried to build him, but they didn't do a very good job. I mean, his match before Jericho's was at Fight the Fallen, and one thing they do is they have time limits in all their matches, and they have had a couple of time limit draws, so that's a factor in the way they're running it, is that time limits can be a factor. And he fought Kip Sabian, who's a UK based, or was a UK based. He's going to be based in the United States for this, but he's from the UK, and he run him to 19 minutes out of a 20-minute match, and almost like Hangman didn't come across as strong. He struggled to get rid of Kip Sabian, who is physically, if you look at him, much smaller than Hangman, and that doesn't mean everything. But if again you're coming from the outside watching it, you think this cowboy fucker should be destroying this little dweeb, this little UK British yellow teeth bastard. He hasn't got yellow teeth, but you know what I mean. But it didn't happen. He struggled to get through him, and then that was his lead up into All Out. So I don't know. He won the Battle Royale. He won a fatal 4-way match, or a 4-way match, whatever they want to call it, and then beat Kip Sabian, and then lost to Jericho. So he's in a little bit of a weird place. I don't think he got over as much as they thought they would, but they didn't do a good job of building him, which is a bit of a concern, because they're going to have to start building other people outside of, established people like Cody and the Young Bucks and all that. Like, Hangman needs some work, basically, and maybe it'll all play into their hands later on down the line if Hangman gets a second crack at it. Who knows? Final con is that they signed someone like John Moxley. As I said, this is an alternative, and there's attraction from the athletes to come over. So he's one of their top, hottest prospects that's come over, because he's come straight from WWE. Now, I'm pretty sure they don't want everyone from WWE coming over. They want to build their own talent, like the Hangmans, bits and pieces like that. But your top stars, like John Moxley, he was scheduled to fight Kenny Omega at All Out. He has been performing in Japan for the last few months, keep himself busy, make a bit of money, all that good stuff. And he ends up picking up a staph infection like 10 days before All Out. So he can't fight. So that match that you've been building since Double or Nothing, so since May, come the end of August, you don't have that match because he's picked up a staph infection fighting for another promotion. And maybe it wasn't him fighting in Japan that got him the staph infection, but it probably didn't help. We'll put it that way. So I guess like my negative is lock these people down, because when it comes to TV and promoting a seamless week-to-week program product, you don't want people disappearing, and you don't want people going off and getting injured elsewhere and not being able to compete on your brand, because John Moxley, whether they like it or not, is one of their biggest draws because he was in the WWE and has been successful. So you can't have people like him not being able to show up on your big pay-per-views because they've picked up an injury or an infection elsewhere. So start locking these people down, make their terms more generous. And I know some of the guys will just want to wrestle in Japan at some point, and they won't be able to do much about it, but they should be doing better to protect their investments and their assets, which is exactly what they are. Let's go then. Top top 5 matches that I've witnessed. These are not in any particular order. These are just the top 5 being reeled off. Double or Nothing. We've got Cody versus Dustin. So that was the brother versus brother, or the era versus era match, as Cody wanted to call it, the Attitude Era versus his era. This was a bloody old school showdown between the two brothers. Dustin got, I don't know if he bladed himself or whether he got smashed. He claims he got smashed with Cody's, like, I don't know what it is, like the fucking this big stick thing with like a diamond plated fucking like wolf on the end of it. He got smashed in the head with that, but we didn't see it because they cut away for a replay for something else. But he was absolutely busted open, bleeding like nothing I'd seen for a long, long time. Cody eventually won out in an absolute war, and then at the end of it offers Dustin the chance to be his partner, and they embrace, and they tag team again, which is a good ending. But a great match, had full of psychology and storytelling, and that's exactly how I like it. Jericho versus Kenny Omega, that was the main event for Double or Nothing. That was a great match also. Shocked to see, a little bit of a shock to see Jericho go over Omega cleanly, but nails him with his new finisher, which is the Jews effect, which is a spinning back elbow. So that can come out of nowhere now. That gives Jericho a new dimension. I know the code breaker technically could, but it seems like people are kicking out of that left, right and centre. Jericho versus Adam Page. I thought that was a great match, despite Adam Page coming in a bit cold. It's still their first ever world title match, and it's still historic in that sense, and it was a good match for what it was, and the in-ring stuff was really good. I guess it was just the energy in the crowd, and just the energy yourself. You sit there and think, is Adam really up to this? And he wasn't. But that's their first title match. Jericho is now their world champion. And then Cody versus Shawn Spears. That was also all out. That was a fantastic match as well. That had Tully Blanchard in the corner of Shawn Spears. MJF was in Cody's corner, and you kind of thought he's been a great heel throughout the months that I've been watching AEW. He's really good on the mic. But his mentor, his friend as he calls him, Cody, was asked him to be in his corner, and he's a babyface, so you've got a heel calling a babyface, and at all times you think when's he going to turn on him? And he didn't. I'm sure he will do in the future, but he didn't at this time. Cody goes over Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears, another former WWE competitor. Never actually got to see him compete, but that didn't go well for him. But he seems like he's found a new breath of life here in AEW, put in a good performance. It was like, another bit of an old school match. Tully was great in Shawn Spears' corner. Arn Anderson also made an appearance in there, so it was a great match, and something that they can look back on and see as a success. And then I was torn for the last match to go on this 5-match list, because the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks have had 2 matches in AEW. One was just a standard tag team match. The other was this absolutely insane ladder match that they just had at All Out. And I'm torn. Because the ladder match clearly was the more spectacular of the two. There's no question about that. Some of the spots in that match were just downright dangerous. But I liked the slightly more grounded approach of their tag match. So I'm going to go with the first match, Double or Nothing, Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks. There's a little bit of storytelling in there. The Young Bucks hadn't competed in a few months, so they were a bit rusty. They told that story and showed that, in effect, of them missing moves and mistiming things and being a bit out of sync. And then they got their groove back, and they finally go over against the Lucha Brothers. So I'm going to put that one in, but the ladder match, it was insane. A stunt fest, but absolutely insane. So that's it. That's a bit of background on AEW, a bit of what I liked and haven't liked so far, or I'm concerned about, I guess. Some of my favourite matches. And I guess what's next? I mean, what's next really is for them to confirm this bloody UK TV deal. Let us know where and when that's airing. I hope it's airing. I'd like it to air live. I'd never watch it live on a Wednesday morning. It would be a Thursday morning over here, Wednesday night. I'd never watch it live unless I was not at work or some bizarre reason. I don't know, I could be on holiday or something. But I'd like the option of having it recorded over that night, so that Thursday when I came back from work, I could put it on and watch it So I'd get that confirmed, get it live so I can watch it Thursday afternoon, night, or whenever I get in as soon as I want, rather than having to wait till probably 10 or 11 o'clock Thursday night. And then at that stage I'm thinking, actually, I might have to watch this Friday because I need to go to bed soon. And I don't want to be 2 days behind, ideally. And now they go to TV. So the 2nd of October, UK will be confirmed hopefully shortly. Weekly television, and they will be building towards a pay-per-view, which is going to be called Full Gear. And that'll be November the 9th, 2019. And that's going to be their first pay-per-view in a post-television world. Because for now, I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy to book 4 shows in the space of since May until August. It's not easy to do that, but it's certainly a damn sight easier than having to book week-to-week television, in my view. I mean, it's easy to find space for people, week-to-week television, give people time off, but to have coherent storylines with people week to week and build towards an event is going to be interesting to see. This is going to be the real acid test, because as good as these sort of 4 events were, and All Out and Double or Nothing certainly were great events in their own right. Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen Thought were good, but not as good as those two. There's a clear difference in quality in my view. As good as those have been, you can unravel it pretty quickly with some really shit TV week to week. So I hope they can put it out of the bag. I hope that some of the points I've raised are rectified, and my fears of, playing towards a set audience doesn't come true, because I think soon they'll figure out that people are going to be turned off a little bit by that. And I hope they can build to a successful pay-per-view November the 9th. I think they get 6 TV shows to do it, so 6 weeks or so between the first All Elite TV show going live and then their pay-per-view Full Gear. So interested to see what that is. We will have a new women's world champion at that point, because that'll be crowned on the very first TV show. Be interesting to see if that's the main event or whether it's bumped down. I have a feeling it'll be the main event match, but there'll be an angle afterwards that will involve Jericho or something like that. That will kind of be the main segment, and then that way they can say, the match was the main event, and then there's a segment afterwards. And the tag team tournament that they're going to be carrying out should also be done and dusted by Full Gear. Although if I was them, I would build that whole tournament on TNT with the final being on Full Gear. That's what I'll do. But then that's me. I don't know what I'm doing really. But yeah, so I'll be back after Full Gear, I think. Well, that'll be like the first, phase 1. Phase 1's done. They're now into phase 2, I guess. And this will be the first sort of inkling of how phase 2 and TV and pay-per-view structure might work. So interesting to see how it all unfolds. I'm going to give them the opportunity to watch all the stuff up until probably the end of the year, and if it's really bad by that point, I'll have to walk away, because I can't just watch something for the sake of it. But I'm looking forward to what's been going on, and I like what I've seen so far. There's some bits I don't like, but it's not the end of the world. It's not overwhelmingly negative, and mostly it's positive though. Like I said, the big matches have all delivered, so if they can keep that up, that can keep me interested. So I'm hoping I'll definitely be back for Full Gear. I've committed to that, so I'll be committing to watching up until that, and then we'll give it till the end of the year and see where we stand and whether we're going to carry on with any AEW coverage. But that'll be it for now. Check back in with us for some more All Elite Wrestling coverage later on in the year, but nothing more for me to say apart from thanks for your time and ta-da.